You're absolutely going to love this Magic Water Comfrey Lotion made with shea butter.
Thank you for joining me today at Family Guide to Herbs Online School. I'm Carolyn Gibson, family herbalist, organic farmer, massage therapist, and I will be your instructor and guide today.
Now, I love my Magic Water Comfrey Oil, and it has been my beauty secret for years. But let's face it, it's a little too oily for some. So let's make a Magic Water Comfrey Lotion with shea butter.
Now, when you're making your own homemade skincare, you control the consistency, how thick or thin you want it. And with this shea butter lotion recipe, there are so many adaptations you can make it to make it thicker or thinner by how many parts of the water phase ingredients that you add. Now you can see by here how thin my lotion is that I made. This is my original lotion I made, and I had beeswax and honey in it. Now this is the licorice root that the water phase ingredient was 4 parts, and you can see it's almost like a body butter. Whereas the comfrey oil lotion I just made, it is 5 parts of the water phase degree. And you see it's a little thinner than the licorice root, but not as thin as the one with the beeswax that I made.
Lotions are basically water or water type ingredients such as herbal tea, hydrosols, or aloe vera juice, and then combined with fats and oils. Now, oil and water do not mix, so the emulsifier wax is added to mix the two together. Now, how much water you use will determine how thick or thin and how quickly it is absorbed by the skin. Now, this recipe is divided into 3 groups or phases: the oil and fat phase, the water phase, the cool down phase. And this recipe will be using the 5 parts of the water phase. Okay, now this recipe, a part is 45 grams, and you can certainly use whatever part you want to use. We're starting out with our Magic Water Comfrey Oil that you have made in another class. So 2 parts would be 90 grams of the Magic Water Comfrey Oil, 1 part of the solid fat, which is our shea butter, that's 45 grams, and 1 part of the emulsifying waxes is 45 grams of emulsifying wax, and we're using 4 grams of vitamin E. Now the water phase ingredient, we're using 225 grams of the Magic Water Comfrey tea, 4 grams of honey, and an optional 6 grams of the Magic Water Comfrey glycerin or alcohol extract. Now in our cool down phase, we're using 4 grams of sorbic acid plus 2 PF, or you can use 4 drops of essential oil of rosemary, and then 6 grams of essential oil of lavender.
Okay, I'm ready to make my Magic Water Comfrey Lotion with shea butter. Now the first thing I want to do, I've gotten my comfrey leaves, I've washed them, I've chopped them up, I have half a cup of chopped comfrey. Now I've also taken the rosemary from my garden. I stripped it off the stems, and then I chopped it up and measured 1/4 of a cup. Now I had already harvested my thyme and dried it. I didn't have enough, it hadn't grown back enough for me to use it, so I'm using my dried thyme. I'm using about a tablespoon of thyme since it has been dried. If it was fresh, I would use 2 tablespoons. And I cannot grow lavender here in East Texas. We're just way too humid. So I have a tablespoon of dried lavender buds. Now, we're starting to make our tea. I've got about 1.5 cups of water here that I've boiled up, and I'm just going to add this to it. Give it a stir. Set it aside. Put the lid on it. I'm going to let it steep for 10 minutes. On leaves, you let them steep for 10 minutes. And then while this is steeping, I'm going to get my other ingredients together. Okay, we've got now, I've got a large frying pan. I've put a a rack in it and put some water in it, and this is going to be my double boiler. Now I've strained my Comfrey tea with its other herbs in it, and I wanted 225 grams of tea. Now for some reason, after you made your tea, you didn't get 225 grams, just add a little more distilled water to it. Now I'm fixing to melt all of my oil phase ingredients. Now I've gone into the oil phase and water phase and all that in some of my other classes, so we won't go into detail on this class. So I'm going to start out with adding 90 grams of my magic water comfrey oil that we made in another class. And then I'm going to add 45 grams of shea butter and 45 grams of emulsifying wax. And I'm going to get this to all melt. And while this is melting, I'm going to keep an eye on my Comfrey tea to make sure it doesn't get over 110. Now I'm also going to be adding some vitamin E, but I'm going to wait till this is completely melted before I add the vitamin E. Okay, now my oil phase ingredients have completely melted, so I'm ready to add my vitamin E, and I'm adding 4 grams of vitamin E to this. Now you don't want to add your vitamin E during the first of the process because you don't want to destroy the antioxidant properties of it. Okay, so I just got that going. I took my water phase, my tea out because it already reached 110, and now I'm ready to add my water phase ingredients to it. Now I'm going to start out with a half a teaspoon of honey. Now I'm using Manuka honey, but you can certainly use any raw natural honey that you may have. I'm just going to stir that in there and get it to melt. This is the main thing we don't want to destroy, is the benefits of the honey. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of some magic water comfrey oil glycerin that I had made. Now if you didn't make this, you can totally leave the glycerin out. It's not a have-to ingredient, but I want this to be just as powerful as I can get it. And glycerin has a lot of wonderful properties for the skin anyway. Okay, I've got that all stirred up. And I'm ready to pour my oil phase ingredients into my oil phase ingredient. And you can see how that kind of turns it a milky white. I'm going to leave this in the water bath while I'm doing this. And now I'm going to stick blend it for 15 seconds. Now I've kept the immersion blender all the way on the bottom because I'm trying not to create a whole lot of air bubbles. I'm going to take this out. Now I'm going to stir this for 2 minutes. Okay, then notice we've got our mixing jar here, so I'm going to pour a little bit of this Lotion mixture into my mixing jar. And then I am going to pour my preservative in it. And then I'm going to stick blend this for 15 seconds. Then I will pour this back into my oil phase container, and I'm going to stir this for 2 minutes. And now I'm going to pour a little of this back into my mixing jar, and I'm going to add my essential oils. And I'm going to stick blend this for 15 seconds. Then I'm going to pour it back into my oil phase container, and I'm going to stir this for another 2 minutes. Okay, we are now ready to pour this into our containers. Now I'm going to use these airless pump containers. And I'm going to show you how thin it is going in. And then we'll come back in about an hour and see how much it has thickened up. Now this recipe I've used the 5 parts of liquid, and on my liquid fruit I use the 4 parts liquid. So I'm going to show you the difference in thickness when you do this after this has had a chance to thicken up for about an hour. Now we left here an hour ago. You remember how thin the lotion was. Now let me show you now how thick it is. So when you're making your lotion, you really need to get it into the containers pretty quick, after you make your lotion.
I certainly hope you have enjoyed making and using your Magic Water Comfrey Lotion. It is creamy enough to use under your foundation, and it's great for minor cuts, bruises, and other skin irritations. Thank you for joining me today. Now, if you wish to see more of these videos, like and subscribe to our channel. Leave me comments in the comments section. Now, for the last 30 years, all of our income has come off our organic farm here in East Texas. We're 100 miles from Dallas, and our little community of 400 still considers chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and gravy a health food. And they just do not understand our lifestyle. They still laugh at what we are doing, especially since our main crop is wheatgrass, which they really have no idea what that is. We need your support by subscribing and liking our channel, and be sure and visit me at familyguidetoherbs.com, your guide to natural homemade remedies. Thank you so much.